Welcome to CS 1401 Video 11.2. In Video 11.1, I discussed modular programming and the purposes and uses of subprograms, including functions and procedures. In this video, I explain how subprograms are implemented in Java as methods. In Java, the only required elements for declaring a method are the method's return type, its name, a pair of parentheses, and a body between curly braces. The return type is going to be the type of the data value that's returned, like a string or a double. The name is the name of the procedure or the function, in this case always a method. The pair of parentheses will have the arguments, and it's possible there are no arguments. And the body is the set of statements we normally have in a program. Those are the required elements. More generally, method declarations have 6 possible components in order. Modifiers. These are terms such as public, which we've already used. The return type. This, as I said, is the data type of the value returned by the method, or void if the method does not return a value. For example, main doesn't return a value, so it's always going to have the return type void. The third component is the method name. The fourth component is the parameter list, or argument list in parentheses. This is a list of input parameters preceded by their data types and separated by commas. If there are no parameters, you still have to have a pair of empty parentheses. Fifth is an exception list. It's a way of handling things if a problem occurs in the execution. And the sixth component is the method body. This is the method's code enclosed between curly braces. The method's code includes the declaration of local variables and the statements to be executed. By convention, method names should be a verb in lowercase or a multi-word name that begins with a verb in lowercase followed by adjectives, nouns, and so forth. Okay, that's enough syntax. Let's try writing out a method starting with the print squares algorithm from the last video. Here's my Java implementation of the algorithm print squares. It will be a class called print squares, and main will of course be void because main never returns a value. Okay, in the body, I'll set an integer n equal to the value of the first argument. That's the maximum number for the table of squares we're going to print. I'll create a new variable called I squared, which is going to hold the value of I squared on each iteration. And now we have a for loop. So we'll start with int I equals 1. We'll continue to iterate as long as I is less than or equal to n. And on each time we execute the loop body, we'll increment I by 1. That means that we'll execute this loop exactly n times. The body of the loop has 2 statements. The first is the call to the method square of I. Square of I calculates the value of I squared, returns the value, and then we can assign it to the variable I squared. The second line of the body is a call to the method print square entry. It does not return a value, but instead prints out our line at the table. Let's look now at the methods which I wrote for square and print square entry. First, square. So it's public, which means that our other methods can access it. It's static, which for our purposes means it's available all the time. Its return value is going to be an integer, The name of the method is square, and its parameter list has one parameter in it, and that parameter is an int with the variable name n. The body of the method is return n times n. So it calculates n squared and returns that value. Next, let's look at the procedure call implemented as a method in Java. Again, it's public, static, but this time it's void because it's not going to return a value. Everything it's going to do is going to be done via a side effect. It takes two arguments, so its parameter list has two variables in it. The first is an int called n. The second is another int called n squared. And in the body of the method, I'll call system.output println and print n, then the string squared is, and then the variable value of n squared. And that's my method, print square entry. So now we know what happens when a program like print squares calls other methods, whether they return a value or they simply have side effects. And we also know how to define the subprograms, the Java methods that are called by the main program. In fact, Java methods can call other Java methods, and so forth. Well, that's a look at methods in Java. In the next class, I'll look at ways to test and debug the programs we write. See you then.